Noon. All set. So just wanted to give some additional information regarding this attack, this dog attack that occurred yesterday in our city. And before I get started, I just want to send out our thoughts and our prayers and condolences to the family and friends of this man that was brutally and viciously attacked in this horrific incident yesterday. This individual that's been identified as James Provost, 59 years old, from the city of Schenectady. And I want to preface this conference by saying that there's not a lot of information. There's not a lot more that I can give you besides what was given in the press release this morning. It's an ongoing investigation. Still a lot of unknowns with this, and our detectives are working their way feverishly and diligently to find out all of the details and to get additional information regarding this. But here's just a brief recap, and there's some additional information in here that was not included in the press release. We received this call yesterday in dispatch a little bit after 5:54 p.m. of some sort of attack, a man being attacked by dogs. The call was dispatched at around 5:59, and the first officer arrived on scene 3 or 4 minutes after that. The first officer on scene observed a male in the rear yard of the residence, which was in the 500 block of Central Avenue, being actively attacked by several mixed breed pit bulls. Approximately 1 minute after arriving and witnessing this, the officer discharged his weapon in an attempt to stop the attack, and when doing so, he struck one of the dogs. At that point, the other dogs dispersed and were still in the immediate vicinity, but the victim was still lying on the ground. A caregiver, we learned, arrived on the scene shortly thereafter, and the caregiver was able to assist in rounding up all the dogs and taking the dogs back inside of the residence. And once inside of the residence, the officers were able to reach the victim and to provide medical assistance. We later learned that the owner of the dogs actually lives in Cohoes. There were a total of 24 mixed breed pit bulls that were located on scene, 15 of them being puppies, all of variation males and females, and that included the one adult male pit bull that was deceased as a result of the gunshot at the scene. Our Albany Police Animal Control Unit, along with Mohawk Hudson Humane Society response team, recovered all of the dogs and transported those dogs to the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society, where the remaining 23 dogs are now being held and cared for. Out of the 9 adult dogs that were at the scene, 4 of those dogs were previously licensed. However, those licenses had expired in March of this year. And of course, the city of Albany requires residents with dogs to register those dogs every year. And in order to obtain a license, the dogs you must show proof of rabies vaccination to the city clerk at City Hall, and violations are civil matters. The puppies were not licensed due to them being only 5 to 8 weeks old. And again, as I stated at the beginning, this remains an active investigation. We're still trying to determine exactly why the victim was in the rear of the residence. Still trying to figure out why the owner of those dogs kept so many dogs at that one location. Building and Codes did respond, and they have an investigation of the residence as well, and we have had no previous complaints or calls at that residence regarding animals or dog-related complaints. So I'll take any questions that you have.
Any criminal charges coming?
Well, there's certainly a possibility. We just don't know what they are. I mean, this was, again, it was a horrific attack, and obviously when you're keeping that many animals in a location in violation of city ordinance, and those animals or some of those animals actually kill a person, there's certainly a possibility for it. So we're working very closely with the district attorney's office to determine exactly what, if any, criminal charges are applicable here, but certainly that's a possibility.
Did the attack take place in the backyard where the dogs were living, or was it in an adjacent yard?
This was in an adjacent yard, so next door to where the dogs were actually being kept, but in that backyard area.
Chief,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
said that there's been no complaints yet of the residents with, in regards to animals, but we've received calls this morning from residents saying that this home is known to the community for being a drug house. Can you confirm that, and has this house ever been raided before by police?
Yeah, back in May, we did conduct a search warrant of that home due to drug activity, reports of it, and during that search warrant, several dogs were confiscated at that time. Several dogs. So it was somewhere between 5 and 7 dogs during that period of time. During that operation, dogs were confiscated and taken for safekeeping and turned over to the Humane Society at that point. Now, when they were turned over, those dogs were not the subject of any criminal investigation. It was not a result of any complaints of any vicious behavior or threatening behavior or any other complaints associated with those dogs. Those dogs just happened to be in that location when we conducted a raid or an operation that was not associated with those dogs at all. And so those dogs were taken for safekeeping, turned over, and at some point those dogs were released. They were not released by anyone associated with the Albany Police Department. So we're not sure what process happened or occurred whereby those dogs were released. We don't know if any of those dogs in that previous operation were involved in this incident that we had here yesterday. But certainly we've had that sort of interaction with them. But in terms of any complaints or calls for service regarding animals or vicious animals or anything else associated with dogs, we have not received anything from that at that location.
Was it the same owner that the dogs were taken from back in May, you said?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Same location. I'm not sure if it was the same owner or not.
So, 2 questions, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Was there any evidence of the dogs being trained to fight, and are you able to disclose the exact address of where this incident happened?
I don't have the exact address, and I'll have Megan connect with you, and we'll see if it's appropriate. If it is, I don't have a problem doing that. Right now, I've got the 500 block of Central Avenue, and so we'll get with you on that. And in terms of activity that these dogs were involved in, I don't know. I do know that that these were not dogs that were kept in where we would traditionally associate it as a family atmosphere. So there are a lot of questions that we have as to why they were there, exactly how they were being, how these dogs were being raised, with how they were being used, and any other activities these dogs were involved in. So that's a part of what we're looking into now.
What is Mr. Provost's connection to that address?
I'm sorry.
What is Mr. Provost's connection to that address?
We don't know. That's part of what we're kind of trying to figure out. Why was that man there? It certainly doesn't justify any harm coming to this man, whatever his reasons were. Again, this was just a horrific incident. But still, it's part of this investigation. We're trying to find out, what his connection was, why he was there on that particular night. And I think you had a follow-up, sir? Let me just get, did you,
Oh, no, it was just.
there was that, okay,
Yeah, it was just a clarification.
gotcha.
And just
Okay.
to clarify,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
when they arrived on scene, how many of the dogs did they find attacking him? Or they just arrived and found the 24 dogs in the vicinity, or were they actively attacking the men when they arrived?
Yeah, so when the first officer arrived, there were 8 or 9 dogs that were actively attacking this man. And the others were found most of the others were found inside of the residence.
What's the
Yes, sir.
procedure about putting the dogs down after they've attacked and killed somebody?
And so that decision is not made by us. With a situation like this where there's clearly some criminal implications with something like this, it has to be adjudicated through the courts. And once that happens, then a judge will make a decision as to what happens with those animals. So in this case, we clearly have some investigation that's occurring. And just like he alluded to, this it clearly has some criminal implications. And so those dogs are being held right now simply because there's a criminal investigation that's occurring. Once this investigation is concluded, then a judge will make a decision as to what happens with these dogs. But that decision will not be made by us.
Chief, to the best of your recollection,
Yes,
do
sir.
you recall any other fatal dog attacks in the city in recent memory?
I don't recall any. I don't. But there's been other folks that have been here a lot longer than I have, and I haven't consulted with them, so I'm not sure. Yes, sir.
Where was how many times has the man bitten? Or like, or is it just?
Yeah, several wounds. It is,
And also
yes.
just, would to euthanize the dogs, whatever the fate of the dogs, would that be the judge in the criminal matter that may take place, or would that be a separate matter that would be adjudicated by a different judge?
So in this case, it's kind of a murky area when we're talking about when these dogs get euthanized and taken down and who has the authority to do these. There's a lot of gray area in this, but what I will say is with cases like this, we don't make that decision. And just like when she brought up the case back in May where we confiscated these animals, and we did what we were supposed to do. We took these animals for safekeeping, turned them over to a place where they were supposed to be, and somebody else makes that decision as to whether or not they get released and to whom. And that's how it is with this one. A lot of times it's case specific, and so sometimes you have different authorities that have a different authority, so to speak, to make that decision to either euthanize these dogs or release these dogs. But in cases like this, I think the important thing for the community to know, because we've been getting questioned about this, is that Albany Police Department is not making that decision. We're taking these. We clearly see that there are some criminal implications with this. We clearly see it's very obvious that at least some of those dogs were involved in the death of this man. And so we've taken these dogs. We put these dogs in a place where they can't cause any further harm, a place where they can't escape, a place where they can be kept while this matter is adjudicated. And once that happens, then some other authority will make some decision as to whether or not these dogs are released, to whom, or whether some or all of these dogs are euthanized.
Are the living
Yes.
conditions in the home still habitable, and how many people do you know were living in that home that the dogs were associated with?
There were some people in there, and that's one of the things that we're looking into. There's so many unanswered questions with this that we're trying to sift our way through. But there were people there. There were 4 or 5 people, from what I understand, that were actually, and I don't know if they were children or not. But clearly there were some other people who were there in at least one of those units that appeared to be residing in at least one of those units. We don't know what their connection, if at all, to this. We're trying to figure all that piece out, and in terms of whether that place is habitable or not, right now, our codes department is conducting, building a codes, conducting an investigation to determine that at this point. Yes, sir.
The owner in Cohoes, have you spoken to that owner, and is that person cooperating with police?
We've spoken with the person. There was cooperation to some point. I'm not sure if that cooperation has continued, but there was some initial cooperation from both that owner as well as the person that was the caregiver for these animals that helped us to corral these animals and get them back into the house.
Did that caregiver live in that doghouse?
No, no.
So what was the caregiver doing on the scene then?
So when we arrived there, the person, someone who was this caregiver, identified himself as being associated with these animals and let us know that he could help us to corral these animals. And so another part of this investigation that's unclear. It's another part that we're trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out all the players, what their roles are. But we do know that there is an owner of the dogs that lives in Cohoes. We know that there is a caregiver that came on scene shortly after our officers arrived on scene, and this caregiver actually helped us to corral these animals, get these animals away from the victim, and then later helped us to get those victims or get those animals onto the transportation vehicle to get those animals over to the Humane Society.
So, Chief, you mentioned that the Albany Police does not get to decide what happens ultimately to these animals, but as a law enforcement agency, do you have any sway in influencing that decision, suggesting one way or another what might be the ultimate fate?
And so our role in that sense is much like any other criminal case. You know, they ask our opinion. They want to know from our professional experience what do we think, and it'd be like any other case where someone gets hurt, injured, killed. We have that sort of influence, but just like any of those other cases, we don't have the final say in terms of a disposition with some of these cases.
So then, going from there, you mentioned one of the dogs was deceased. Were any others killed or have since passed away since the incident?
As far as I know, no.
Okay,
No.
and any arrests? I'm not sure if you mentioned that. I just wanted to check, and if so,
No arrest at this point.
and any thoughts on how this might change rules or dog or permitting rules, leash laws here in the city? Any projected changes?
I don't, we haven't discussed that. I think that the rules that we have in place are adequate. I think that if these folks who are the caregiver and the owner of these animals, had they complied with the existing rules, I think that there's a high likelihood that this would not have happened. So we haven't discussed any further changes.
Was the man from Cohoes present at the location on Central Avenue?
I'm sorry, was that, sir?
The man from Cohoes who the dog belonged to, was he present at the house on Central Avenue when the officers arrived and this all happened?
No.
And is there a body cam footage?
Don't know, but I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but I'll check. I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
Was this a backyard, like, breeding location? Was it legal? Sounds like there was a lot of puppies, so just curious on that.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there, and there was a lot of very, very questionable activities. I don't know exactly, and I'm not at liberty to say what they are because we just don't know at this point. But we do know that there was some very, very questionable activities going on at that place, and I will say, and I want to make it very clear, we're going to use every available resource to find out what was happening in that place. We're going to find out who, if somebody is criminally responsible for this. We're going to do everything we can, working with our district attorney and with any other folks that want to work with us on this, to find out what that is, and we're going to do everything we can to bring justice for this person that was just viciously attacked in this horrific attack. So, yes, sir.
Did the mauling incident, clarification, mauling incident take place in the backyard where the dogs were living at the time, or did the dogs come from another house or location?
Next door. So the dogs were housed in one location, and the attack happened in the backyard of the next door location.
And
Yes, sir.
mentioned problems with the house that housed the dogs, the search warrant earlier this year. Has there been any trouble with that, the adjacent house in which the attack took in the backyard?
Not that I know of, no, sir.
So,
Okay.
I also,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding, 3 people involved, 1 dog owner, 1 caretaker, 1 person deceased, that's correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
I
Alright.
just wanted to
Yes, go ahead.
clarify
Yes.
if there was any forced entry from the person that was deceased, if you saw any forced entry, whether it was the fence or the home, and was the person that was deceased in the backyard?
Yeah, the person that was deceased was in the backyard of the next door to where the dogs were being kept. In terms of forced entry, I haven't gotten that information. So I can't give you anything on that.
There's a vacant building that's behind, like, one of the homes. The landing is high enough for, like, maybe somebody to
Oh, okay.
climb over the fence or anything. Is that kind of like in the vicinity where you found, is that the backyard where you found?
I don't know. I have to get a little bit more information on that. But what I do know is that the victim in this did not reside at that location where those dogs were being kept. The victim, for whatever reason, was in the backyard of the house next door. We don't know why he was there. We don't know how he got there. As we speak, they're trying to figure all that out, and I have full confidence in our investigators that they're going to figure out all these questions. We're going to figure out the sequence of events. We're going to find out why this guy was there. We're going to find out the role of this caretaker and the owner of these dogs. We're going to find out why they were keeping so many dogs there, and we're going to make a determination in conjunction with the district attorney's office as to whether or not there are some criminal charges associated with this, and if they are, we're going to pursue this with all of the resources that we have to bring justice to that man and his family.
Criminal suspicion with the victim?
No, at this moment, no.
To
All right, thank you.
clarify one thing,
Yes.
the dogs came through the fence of the house next door and attacked the gentleman. They were in the yard next door. They came through the
So,
fence.
so I don't know about a fence, but I tell you this: the dogs resided at the one location. The man was in the backyard of the house next door. Somehow, we don't know yet, and we're trying to figure that out. Somehow those dogs got out, and somehow those dogs got to this location where this man was, and they attacked this man. We're going to figure this out. It's going to take us a little bit to kind of piece this together, but we will, and we'll bring justice to that man. Thank you. Yes.
Do you have any updates on that double hit and run and off of Madison?
No.
Double hit and run on Madison from Tuesday?
No, I don't have any information on that one right now. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Chief,
Thank you.
before you disappear, could I just get a picture? Thank you. Hey, look, my boss likes his pictures. I appreciate your time, sir.
Wore my better uniform after I seen your
I appreciate it.
Is your own uniform or your white uniform?
Yeah, I know. I would've brought my white uniform if I knew his picture. No, I do.
How's this, sir?
My stomach, it's just,
No judgment from me.